Hi again, it's another video in my weird zine reading series where I read from odd or unusual zines that I've collected. This time I actually don't have a physical copy of the zine to show you because I found this zine online as an e-zine, and I'll link to it in the description of the video so you can check it out. It's called Yuppies with Spears, and it's a reprint of an article from .bit magazine, which is a now defunct tech magazine from Seattle. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's like 16 pages long, but I've picked out some of my favorite passages, and I'm going to read them for you. The whole thing is by Gerald Edmondson, and it was reprinted by some punks with a website, I guess. I'll link to them. They have a print-ready PDF, so if you really want to, you can print this out and have it as a physical zine for yourself, or there's a web PDF so you can read it online. That's that. So without further ado, here's the reading. Thousands of years ago, all humans used to live like this, Mike told me that night as we sat in his spacious one-room log cabin summer house, and we better understood our connection to nature. We, humanity, we're hunters, I tell you. We're not tillers of the land. What's more, we're best of breed in the animal kingdom thanks to this. Mike held up one hand and pointed to its thumb with a forefinger. The opposable thumb, it all starts there. And what about all of this, I asked. The Blackbush tribe, how did it start? Mike stood and opened one of the storm-resistant windows set into the wall, letting the fresh night air in. When he retook his seat, he told a story for me in my eager tape recorder. I've always thought different. I'm an independent thinker, a natural entrepreneur, a go-getter type. Everyone here is like that. We all give 110%. But when you work hard, you play hard, you've got to understand. Me and some of the guys we all used to live in Seattle together and work for some of the better .coms. This was back when we weren't doing as well financially after the bottom fell out of the industry, and we were lucky to scrape together 80, 90 grand a year. Okay, I'm okay. We took a sort of rebellious, youthful pride in our high-risk, high-gain lifestyle, and we formed a Segway gang. Every Friday night we get together, about 20 of us, and Segway from bar to bar, getting pretty hammered. After a few months we got our ducks in a row. We had jackets made, sports coats with Seattle Segway Gang, LLC across the back, and we had a short run of luck doing consulting work for hip companies who wanted to give their team members a chance to blow off some steam. But once we had picked all the low-hanging fruit, our business model just didn't carry through and it was back to drinking at the bars. Anyway, the industry picked up and we rode that wave, surfing our way to the big bucks. Suddenly we were no longer struggling to pay off our second cars. And even the rising gas prices didn't scare us. It was around this time that Blackbush Tribe executive manager Scott picked up a book called Ishmael by David Quinn. And if that book didn't change our lives... I poured myself another glass of homemade wine as Mike continued his story. We knew that despite our money, we weren't happy. When I was younger, of course, I thought that it was simply because I wasn't making enough money. But then I realized that this whole culture, this sedentary life, is actually ill-suited to human temperament. I mean, 500,000 years of evolution can't be wrong, right? So the lot of us, it was still about 20 at that point, looked into our options. Most of us were telecommuters by that point anyhow, which made it easier for us to work multiple jobs. A couple of the Seattle gangs were real estate brokers, and we figured that if we bought a large enough swath of land, well, the rest is history, isn't it? Oh, sure, it took us a hot minute to figure out exactly how to incorporate, and it caused a bit of problems in the home life for some of the family types. You a family type? You got a wife, kids? I was caught off guard by the question, so I merely shook my head. Yeah, me neither. I say, playing the game gets boring when you've got the same opponent every inning, right? I mean, I'm not sexist or anything, right? So anyhow, a few guys got cut from the team, but we got a few wives on board. We bought the land, we got contractors to build our different homes, set up cell towers, and now we work from wherever we lay our heads at night. Since it was summer, Where Mike lay his head at night was a queen-sized luxury mattress and a mahogany poster bed. Come fall, the tribe would roll southwards to their brick autumn homes. During the winter they rested in Hobbit Hole mansions set into the south face of a hill on their property. In the spring it was back north to tree houses, and the circle would continue another year. I've got a few things left on my action list for the night, but I'm glad we got to dialogue, Mike dismissed me politely. And remember, tomorrow we go hunting. I left my host and walked through the warm night to the guest lodge, a spacious one-room house that dwarfs my small-town Oregon apartment. The next morning I woke up with the sun, as is custom among the tribe people here. I stretched out, threw off my buckskin blanket, and got dressed. When I walked outside, part of the tribe was gathered at the dining pavilion. A large non-stick pot was suspended over the cook fire, attended by one of the few women present. She was in her late 20s, stocky and handsome, with a strong jaw and a stronger gaze. 3 toddlers clung to her jeans. Sue Donaldson was her name, and she came here unmarried, though she was currently engaged to a fellow tribesperson. None of the children were hers, I soon learned as I struck up a conversation. We've got 5 married couples here, and 3 of them have children, 1 kid each. We want a second generation, sure, but no inflation. I asked her why she felt that so few women had joined the tribe, and Sue sighed. It's this glass ceiling bit. The women out there with drive, with initiative, are busy trying to tear that down. But what they don't realize is that the glass ceiling, now that it's been raised up somewhat, can actually be helpful. I mean, who wants the stress of being a CEO? I hit upper middle management, and I'm happy as a PM for the LS department of my firm. I think that men have an easier time of it, realizing that they would rather live more naturally. Sue took a sip of the wild oat porridge from her heavy wooden spoon and smiled a bit. But I think that more women are catching on. Women are naturally smarter than men, and when our culture catches up, it'll show. I asked her if she was going on the hunt. She laughed. Oh, heavens, no. The boys would be all kinds of huffy about it, and I've got too much on my plate as it is. I'm behind on a human resources funding request that I need to have in by 5 Pacific time, and I've got these kids to watch over. Then when the boys get back from the hunt, they'll be hungry. Slightly baffled, I walked back to Mike's hut to see how the day would go. I found him standing over a bucket sink that was mounted to one log wall, shaving in the mirror. He seemed happy to see me. There you are. I was thinking a bit this morning about our conversation last night. Our eyes met in the mirror, and he spoke as he ran the cordless electric razor over the section of his neck that he kept shaved. I was thinking about tools. My host went on to explain how tools had been slandered quite unduly by environmentalists. The real villain, he said, was an inflation of people that expanded beyond the inflation of the economy. But tools are productivity enhancers, and what's more, they can be more energy efficient. You may have noticed, for example, that we migrate by way of scooter rather than walking or riding bicycles. I nodded at this, for indeed I had been curious. It's a matter of efficiency, Mike explained to me. The efficiency of one set of solutions over another. Let's say you're walking somewhere or bicycling. That uses calories, and those calories have to come from somewhere. Now for a sedentary people slave to their agriculture, those calories can be taken from the earth by force. The more work one does as a farmer, the greater yield, right? But not so for our lifestyle. If we hunt more, the elk thin out. We have a limited ability to generate calories in a sustainable fashion from our land base, so we need to control the amount that we hunt. Electricity, on the other hand, we don't need to work as hard for. The Segway is quite an efficient machine, the human a less efficient one. The Segway is far more adapted to our lifestyle. What's more, since we don't need to spend as much of our time hunting, we have increased productivity in the economic sphere. You see that, don't you? Mike's eyes were glazed a bit, and I was unsure if he had gotten soap in them or if I was speaking to a madman. I nodded weakly. Now, before we go hunting, we're going to have to sign this non-disclosure agreement. Thanks to the fine print of that agreement, I can't tell you much of how the Blackbush tribe hunts. I can tell you only this. There is war paint, there are spears, there are laser beacons, and there is quite a bit of blood. I found myself in awe at the transformation of Mike and the others, and even a bit at myself. Yeah, so that's the article. It's quite hilarious, and a little bit objectionable, a lot objectionable. It's really funny. I highly recommend reading it, especially if you like to laugh at Yuppies. It's quite something. Yeah, so that's it for today, and I will see you next time. Bye.